My name is Kay, and at 31 years old, I run a successful tech company that my family knows nothing about. When I decided to visit home for my 32nd birthday, I expected a small celebration, maybe a homemade cake. Instead, my mother looked at me across our worn kitchen table and said, "We had to cancel your birthday dinner. We need the money for your sister Sophia's Europe trip." The familiar sting of being second best returned, but they had no idea what my life had become. 2 days later, as we sat at dinner, my phone rang. Little did I know it would change everything. Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt invisible in your own family. Growing up in Oakwood, California, a small town with more trees than traffic lights, I was always the odd one out in my family. Our house was modest but comfortable, with fading blue paint and a porch swing that squeaked with every gentle push. My father, Thomas, a now retired engineer, spent his weekends tinkering with old cars in our garage. My mother, Laura, who taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school for 30 years, filled our home with the smell of freshly baked cookies and the sound of gentle humming. Then there was my sister Sophia, 5 years younger than me and the undisputed star of our family constellation. From the moment she could walk, she captivated everyone with her natural charm and talent. Ballet recitals, soccer championships, debate team victories. Sophia collected achievements like other kids collected trading cards. Our living room mantel groaned under the weight of her trophies and medals, while my academic awards usually ended up in a drawer somewhere. Sophia has such natural talent, my mother would tell her friends at church socials. And Kay, well, she works very hard. The underlying message was clear. Sophia was blessed with gifts, while I merely compensated with effort. I was 8 years old when I brought home my first perfect spelling test. My father glanced at it and said, "Good job, kiddo," before returning to his newspaper. That same evening, Sophia only 3 stacked blocks in what my parents deemed an exceptionally advanced pattern, earning her ice cream and endless praise. This pattern continued throughout my childhood. My straight A's were expected, not celebrated. When I made the honor roll every year in high school, my mother would nod and say, "That is what happens when you study." Meanwhile, when Sophia got her first B+, our parents took her out for a special dinner to celebrate her breakthrough. Money in our household always seemed to flow toward Sophia's pursuits. Private dance lessons, expensive soccer camps, custom debate suits. No expense was spared. When I needed new graphing calculators or wanted to attend a summer science program, I was gently reminded about family budget constraints and encouraged to find part-time work. By 16, I was working weekends at the local bookstore, saving every dollar for college. My parents had started a college fund for both of us, but Sophia's activities had slowly drained mine. "You are so responsible with money, Kay," my mother said, as if my forced frugality was a character virtue rather than a necessity. My birthdays became predictable exercises in disappointment. My 16th birthday dinner was canceled because it conflicted with Sophia's regional dance competition. My 18th was remembered 2 days late, with a hastily purchased card and a $20 bill. By my 21st, I had stopped expecting anything at all. The dynamic between Sophia and me was complicated. She was not deliberately malicious, just accustomed to being the center of attention. While I resented the inequality, I could not bring myself to resent her. She was my little sister after all. Sometimes in rare, quiet moments when our parents were not around, we would share secrets and laugh together like normal siblings. But those moments became increasingly rare as we grew older. My father Thomas, now in his early 60s with salt and pepper hair and calloused hands, had always been a man of few words. He expressed love through practical acts, fixing my car before I left for college, installing bookshelves in my childhood bedroom. But his eyes lit up differently when Sophia entered a room. With her, he found his voice asking about her day, her friends, her dreams. My mother Laura, with her perpetually rushed demeanor and reading glasses perched on her head, managed our family with efficient care. She kept track of everyone's schedules, prepared balanced meals, and maintained an immaculate home. Yet her organizational skills seemed to falter when it came to remembering my achievements or preferences. She could recall Sophia's favorite color from each year of her life, but consistently bought me gifts in shades I disliked. Sophia, now 25, with our mother's blonde hair and our father's confident stance, had never known what it was like to truly struggle. Her path had always been smoothed by our parents' attention and resources. After college, which our parents paid for entirely, she decided to become a yoga instructor. "I need to find my authentic self," she explained, while our parents nodded in understanding. No one mentioned the business degree that had cost them thousands. When I graduated from college with honors in computer science, I received a card from my family who could not attend due to Sophia's dance showcase. I stood alone after the ceremony, watching other graduates surrounded by cheering relatives, and made a decision that would change my life. I would build a success so undeniable that even my family would have to see me. I packed my modest belongings into my used car and drove to San Francisco without looking back. The distance between Oakwood and San Francisco was only a few hundred miles, but emotionally I was crossing an ocean. My journey to success started in a cramped studio apartment in San Francisco that cost more than my parents' mortgage. With my computer science degree and determination as my only assets, I landed an entry-level coding position at a mid-sized tech company. I worked 14-hour days, volunteered for every project nobody wanted, and spent weekends learning new programming languages while my peers explored the city's nightlife. During those early years, I called home every Sunday. Our conversations followed a predictable script. My parents would share detailed updates about Sophia's latest achievements, ask me a few cursory questions about my little job, and then rush off the phone to attend to something more pressing. I never corrected their assumption that I was a replaceable cog in a corporate machine. Something inside me wanted to prove myself before revealing the truth. Within 2 years, I was promoted to senior developer, then team lead. By year 3, I was managing the company's most profitable division. But the corporate ladder felt too confining for my ambitions. I had ideas that could revolutionize educational technology, ideas my bosses were too cautious to pursue. So at 26, I took the biggest risk of my life. I withdrew my modest savings, secured a small business loan, and founded Novatech. Our mission was to develop artificial intelligence systems that could adapt to individual learning styles, making quality education accessible to all students, regardless of resources or location. Those first months were terrifying. I ate ramen noodles for dinner most nights, and slept on an air mattress in our tiny office space. The breakthrough came 18 months later. Our adaptive learning platform caught the attention of a prominent tech investor after a successful pilot program in 3 inner-city schools. Test scores rose by 30%, teacher satisfaction improved, and student engagement doubled. The investor offered $5 million for a 20% stake in the company. That investment changed everything. I moved from my cramped apartment into a spacious condo in Pacific Heights, with panoramic views of the Golden Gate Bridge. Our company relocated to a sleek office in the financial district, complete with the requisite startup perks: cold brew on tap, ergonomic workstations, and a rooftop garden. But the most valuable addition to my life was Jessica, the executive assistant I hired to manage my increasingly complex schedule. Jessica, with her impeccable organizational skills and unflappable demeanor, quickly became indispensable. More than an assistant, she became my confidant and the closest thing to a friend I had allowed myself in years. She knew when to push me to rest, when to order my favorite Thai food during late nights, and how to diplomatically reschedule meetings when I needed creative space. She was also the only person who knew the full extent of my complicated relationship with my family. "Your parents have no idea you are a millionaire CEO?" she asked incredulously, after overhearing a particularly dismissive phone call with my mother. I shrugged. "They think I work in an office doing something with computers. I have never corrected them." Jessica shook her head. "That Christmas bonus you sent them last year was more than most people make in a year." "I told them it was a company-wide holiday gift for employees' families," I explained. The truth was, my parents had never asked for details about my career. In our brief phone conversations, they seemed satisfied with my vague references to work going well, before eagerly sharing Sophia's latest yoga certification or travel plans. After years of feeling invisible, I had stopped trying to be seen. But my professional profile was becoming harder to keep secret. Last month, I was featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30 list. Novatech had grown to 150 employees with our educational software implemented in over 500 schools nationwide. And just last week we had signed a $40 million contract with one of the largest school districts in the country, a deal that would bring our adaptive learning technology to nearly 1 million students. The success brought a strange mixture of validation and emptiness. I had achieved everything I had set out to accomplish professionally, but the personal recognition I had craved from my family remained elusive, largely because I had never given them the chance to acknowledge it. As my 32nd birthday approached, I found myself staring at the photo on my desk, the only family picture I displayed. It was taken at Sophia's high school graduation, all of us smiling under the California sun. Despite everything, they were still my family. Perhaps it was time to bridge the gap I had helped create. On impulse, I called my mother and told her I wanted to come home for my birthday weekend. Her surprise was evident, but she quickly recovered. "Of course, honey, we would love to see you." I asked Jessica to clear my schedule, declining her offer to arrange a private jet. "I am driving." I insisted, feeling a need to make the journey in a way that connected me to my past. "Just a normal visit home." Jessica looked skeptical but nodded. "Should I ship any of your birthday gifts to your parents' house?" I laughed at the thought of my employees' extravagant presents arriving at my parents' modest home. Definitely not. As far as they know, I am just an ordinary office worker who can barely afford her San Francisco rent. As I packed a weekend bag, deliberately choosing plain clothes rather than my usual designer wardrobe, I wondered if I was making a mistake. Part of me wanted to arrive in a blaze of success, forcing them to acknowledge what I had achieved. But another part, perhaps the wiser part, knew that genuine reconnection could not be built on resentment or vindication. I decided to approach the weekend with an open heart. Maybe this birthday would be different. Maybe after all these years my family would finally see me. The 5-hour drive from San Francisco to Oakwood gave me plenty of time to rehearse scenarios in my head. Would my parents notice the subtle changes success had brought? My more confident posture? The quality of my simple clothes? The absent worry lines that financial security had erased? Would Sophia and I find common ground as adults? I had deliberately rented a modest sedan rather than driving my Tesla, wanting to ease into revelations rather than announce them. Oakwood looked smaller than I remembered. The main street still featured Wilson's Hardware Patty's Diner and the Sunshine Bakery, but now interspersed with chain coffee shops and cellular stores. I drove past my old high school, past the bookstore where I had worked weekends, and finally turned onto Maple Street, where my childhood home waited, looking exactly the same yet somehow diminished. My mother opened the door before I could knock, her face lighting up with a smile that made me question my resentments. "Kay," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug that smelled of her familiar lavender perfume. "Let me look at you." She held me at arm's length, her eyes scanning me in that maternal way that made me feel simultaneously loved and evaluated. "City life agrees with you." My father appeared behind her, his tall frame slightly stooped, now hair thinner than I remembered. "There is my girl," he said, giving me an awkward side hug. His garage clothes had been replaced with a clean button-up shirt, his version of dressing up for my arrival. The house was just as I remembered. The same faded floral couch, the same landscape paintings on the walls, the same family photos where Sophia's achievements took center stage. The only notable addition was a large corkboard covered with postcards and brochures featuring European landmarks. A vision board for Sophia's upcoming adventure. "Sophia will be here soon," my mother said, ushering me into the kitchen where something delicious bubbled on the stove. "She has been so excited to see you. She just had to finish teaching her afternoon yoga class." I helped my mother prepare dinner, falling into our old rhythm of her directing and me assisting. As I chopped vegetables, she filled me in on neighborhood gossip, church activities, and of course Sophia's latest achievements. The yoga studio made her lead instructor last month, she said proudly. They never promote anyone that quickly, but you know Sophia, she just has that special touch with people. I nodded, wondering if my mother knew that I now led company-wide meetings with investors worth billions of dollars. That is great, I said instead. She always was a natural teacher. My father sat at the kitchen table, ostensibly reading his newspaper, but occasionally glancing up at me with an expression I could not quite decipher. How is the computer job, he finally asked during a lull in my mother's monologue. It is going well, I said, my standard response. Busy but good. Making decent money, he pressed, surprising me with his interest. Before I could answer, the front door burst open and Sophia's voice filled the house. I am home. Where is the birthday girl? Sophia bounded into the kitchen, a whirlwind of blonde hair and athletic energy. At 25, she looked like a catalog model for activewear, her yoga-toned body clad in expensive athleisure clothes. Kay, she squealed, embracing me with genuine enthusiasm. You look amazing. San Francisco must have some serious magic. Dinner was a lively affair dominated by Sophia's animated descriptions of her yoga classes, her recent hiking trip to Sedona, and most importantly, her upcoming European adventure. I have been manifesting this trip for years, she explained, her eyes bright with excitement. 3 months backpacking through 7 countries. It is going to be absolutely transformative. Sophia has been saving up, my mother added, though her quick glance at my father suggested otherwise. Well, trying to, Sophia amended with a laugh. Yoga instruction is spiritually fulfilling but not exactly lucrative. Mom and Dad are helping with the flights. My father cleared his throat. Speaking of finances, he said, his eyes not quite meeting mine. Kay, your mother and I need to talk to you about your birthday dinner. My mother reached across the table to pat my hand. We had originally planned to have a nice celebration at Romano's for your birthday tomorrow. We made reservations months ago. I remembered Romano's, the nicest restaurant in Oakwood where we had celebrated Sophia's high school graduation. My heart warmed at the thought they had planned something special. But we had to cancel the reservation, my mother continued, her voice apologetic but matter of fact. We need to put that money towards Sophia's airline tickets. The prices just keep going up, and if we do not book soon, she might not get the dates she needs for her yoga retreat in Bali. The warmth drained from my chest, replaced by a familiar cold weight. I see, I managed to say. We thought we could do something simple instead, my father added quickly. Maybe order pizza tomorrow night? Sophia at least had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I told them we could just postpone my trip, but the retreat dates are fixed, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for my career development. My mother nodded vigorously. Exactly. You understand, do not you, Kay? You have your established job, but Sophia is at a crucial point in her career path. These connections could really put her yoga instruction on the map. I looked at their expectant faces. My mother's practical concern, my father's discomfort, Sophia's barely concealed excitement about her trip. After all these years, nothing had changed. I was still the responsible one, expected to understand, to step aside, to need less. I swallowed the hurt rising in my throat and forced a smile. Of course I understand. Pizza sounds great. Relief visibly washed over my parents' faces. My mother launched into an explanation of which pizzeria made the best gluten-free crust for Sophia's sensitive system, while my father retreated behind his newspaper. Just like that, my 32nd birthday was downgraded and dismissed. I sat quietly pushing food around my plate, fighting the urge to mention that I could buy the entire restaurant if I wanted to, let alone pay for a simple birthday dinner. But some stubborn part of me wanted them to value me without knowing what I had become. To see Kay the daughter, not Kay the successful CEO. As I sat there listening to Sophia detail every planned stop on her European itinerary, I wondered why I had come home at all. Some childish part of me had hoped things would be different this time. But here I was, 31 years old, accomplished beyond my wildest dreams, and still invisible at my own family's dinner table. The next morning brought no improvement. My mother had forgotten to buy coffee that I could drink, remembering only that Sophia avoided caffeine, so I walked to the local cafe for my morning essential. When I returned, the house was buzzing with activity, but none of it related to my birthday. My mother was helping Sophia organize her travel documents, while my father researched European power adapters online. "Kay, honey, would you mind running to the store?" my mother asked without looking up from Sophia's passport. "We need ingredients for dinner tonight, and I just cannot step away from this right now." I agreed, swallowing my disappointment. Even on my birthday, I was an afterthought, useful primarily for errands. As I drove to the grocery store in my rented car, I checked my phone to find dozens of birthday messages from my employees and business associates. Jessica had sent a photo of the elaborate cake waiting in my office back in San Francisco with a message, "We miss you, boss. Let me know if you need an emergency extraction from family time." The contrast between my two worlds had never felt so stark. In San Francisco, I was valued, respected, even admired. Here in Oakwood, I was just Kay, reliable, unremarkable Kay who could surely understand why her birthday dinner needed to be sacrificed for her sister's adventures. That evening, we gathered around the dining table again. My mother had ordered pizza as promised, remembering Sophia's dietary preferences but forgetting that I had always disliked mushrooms, which covered half the pie. My father had bought a small supermarket cake that misspelled my name as Kay. No one had bothered to correct the error. "So, Kay," my father said as we ate, "tell us more about this computer job of yours. Are you still at the same company?" The question presented an opportunity to finally reveal the truth, but something held me back. "Still in tech," I said vaguely. "Things are going well." "That is nice, dear," my mother said absently before turning to Sophia. "Now about your connecting flight in London." Sophia launched into another detailed account of her travel plans, complete with descriptions of the Instagram photos she planned to take at each location. My parents listened with rapt attention, asking questions and offering suggestions. "I am thinking of starting a travel blog," Sophia announced. "Maybe even monetize it if I get enough followers. It could be the start of my personal brand as a global yoga influencer." "That is a wonderful idea," my mother exclaimed. "You have always been so photogenic and creative." My father nodded proudly. Our Sophia, the entrepreneur. I nearly choked on my pizza. I wanted to tell them about the 3 patents I held, the company I had built from nothing, the educational technology that was changing thousands of students' lives. I wanted to tell them that I was not just an entrepreneur but a creator of opportunities for others. Instead, I reached for my water glass and stayed silent. "Kay, did not you do something with a website once?" my mother asked, her brow furrowed in vague recollection. Before I could answer, my phone rang. The screen displayed Office Jessica's code for important calls I should not ignore. Under normal circumstances, I would have excused myself to take the call privately, but my mother waved her hand dismissively. "Go ahead and answer, dear. We know your little office probably needs you even on your birthday." Something in her condescending tone made me put the phone on speaker. "Hello?" Jessica's efficient professional voice filled the dining room. "Boss, I am sorry to disturb your family time, but I wanted to confirm details for next week. Your private jet is scheduled for 7 a.m. Tuesday for the Paris meeting with the education minister. Should I arrange for the usual suite at Le Maurice? Or would you prefer the peninsula this time?" The silence that followed was absolute. My father's fork slipped from his fingers and clattered onto his plate. My mother froze with her wine glass halfway to her lips. Sophia's mouth hung open mid-sentence. I stared at my phone, equally shocked. Jessica and I had no meetings in Paris scheduled, and while the company did occasionally charter private flights for international business, I had never heard about this particular trip. "Jessica," I said carefully, "I think there might be some confusion about my schedule." "Oh," Jessica sounded flustered, very unlike her usual composed self. "I am so sorry, Miss Reynolds. I have just seen the email from the French delegation. They have specifically requested you present the educational implementation plan in person. The board thought chartering the jet would be most efficient given your tight schedule next week. Shall I tell them you are unavailable? 3 pairs of eyes stared at me in stunned disbelief. I took a deep breath, recognizing that the moment of truth had arrived, albeit in a way I never expected. Please tell them I will need to review the materials before confirming, I said, trying to maintain my professional demeanor despite my racing heart. And Jessica, let us talk tomorrow about the travel arrangements. Of course, boss. Again, sorry for the interruption. Happy birthday. As I ended the call, the dining room remained frozen in tableau. My father was the first to break the silence. Private jet? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Paris, boss. I looked at their shocked faces and realized there was no going back. I have been meaning to tell you all something about my work. What exactly do you do? My father asked, his voice uncharacteristically sharp. The newspaper puzzle he had been half-heartedly working on lay forgotten beside his plate. I took a deep breath. This was not how I had imagined revealing my success, but perhaps there was no perfect way. I am the founder and CEO of Novatech. We develop artificial intelligence systems for educational applications. My mother's forehead creased in confusion. But you told us you worked at a tech company, in an office. I do work at a tech company in an office, I said carefully. But I do not work for someone else. I own the company. I built it from scratch 6 years ago. Sophia let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Wait, you own a company that has private jets? We do not own jets, I clarified. We charter them when necessary for international business. But yes, Novatech is a significant player in educational technology. We currently have contracts with over 500 schools across the country, and we are expanding internationally. My father leaned forward, his engineering mind clearly trying to process the practical details. How many employees do you have? 150 last count. We will probably add another 50 after our newest contract is implemented. And you are the boss, my mother said slowly as if testing the concept. The actual boss. Of all those people. I nodded, watching as realization dawned on their faces. My mother's expression shifted from confusion to something more complex. A mixture of pride, embarrassment, and perhaps a hint of defensiveness. Why did not you tell us? She asked, an edge to her voice that suggested I had somehow deceived them. When would I have told you? I asked quietly. Our phone calls last 10 minutes at most, and they are usually about Sophia's latest achievements. You have never really asked about my work beyond whether I still have the same job. My father flinched slightly at this, his eyes dropping to the table. Sophia shifted uncomfortably in her seat. We always ask how work is going, my mother protested. You always say fine or busy but good. How are we supposed to know you were running some big important company? Novatech was featured in Forbes last month, I said, unable to keep a hint of hurt from my voice. Our educational platform received a National Innovation Award last year. If you had ever Googled my name, you would have seen dozens of articles and interviews. My father looked genuinely stricken. We had no idea, Kay. That is the point, Dad. You never thought to look. You never imagined I could be doing anything noteworthy. My mother's chin lifted defensively. That is not fair. We have always been supportive of your career. Have you? I challenged gently. When was the last time you asked me a specific question about my work? When Sophia decided to become a yoga instructor, you researched everything about yoga certification. You know the names of her favorite poses and her studio schedule. Do you know the name of my company before tonight? Do you know what our software actually does? My mother opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again, her expression conflicted. Sophia, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. So you are like rich now. Is that what this is about? You came home to show off how successful you are compared to the rest of us. Her tone held an accusation that stung. No, Sophia. I came home hoping to reconnect with my family. I deliberately downplayed my success because I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I have achieved. But now you are throwing it in our faces, she said, eyes flashing, making us feel bad about canceling a dinner reservation when apparently you could buy the whole restaurant. I did not plan for Jessica to call, I said, keeping my voice level. But yes, it hurts that after all these years my birthday is still the first thing to be sacrificed. It hurts that you all assumed I would understand and accept it without question, because that is what I have always done. My father cleared his throat. Kay, we never meant to make you feel less important. We just thought. You thought Sophia needed the support more, I finished for him. You have always thought that. And maybe that was true when we were kids. But I am 32 years old today, and you still treat me like my feelings and milestones matter less. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We are proud of you too, Kay. We have always been proud of how responsible and independent you are. That is just it, Mom. You are proud that I do not need you. That I never cause problems or make demands. You appreciate my absence more than my presence. Sophia pushed away from the table abruptly. This is ridiculous. You disappear to San Francisco, barely keep in touch, hide your entire life from us, and then blame us for not knowing about it. Maybe if you had shared anything real about yourself over the past decade, we would know you better. There was enough truth in her words to make me pause. Had I withdrawn too completely? Had my hurt led me to build walls too high for my family to scale? You are right, I acknowledged, surprising her. I stopped trying to be seen a long time ago, but that does not change the fact that you all were quick to cancel my birthday plans for Sophia's trip without a second thought. That pattern has been consistent my entire life. My father stood up, his face troubled. I think we all need some time to process this. Kay, I am sorry about your birthday dinner. We should have found another solution. My mother wiped her eyes. Maybe we can still call Romano's, see if they have a table available tonight. The suggestion, while well-intentioned, felt like too little too late. I think I need some space, I said, standing up. I am going to get a hotel room for tonight. Do not be ridiculous, my mother protested. Your room is all made up. I need to think, Mom, and make some work calls, I added, the excuse feeling safer than the emotional truth. Sophia crossed her arms, running away again. Some things never change. Her words hit harder than she knew. Was I running away, perhaps? But staying felt impossible right now, with decades of hurt suddenly exposed and raw. I will call you tomorrow, I said, gathering my purse and phone. We can talk more then. As I walked to the door, my father followed me. Kay, he said quietly, I am sorry. Not just about dinner. About a lot of things. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. Then I walked out to my rental car, finally letting the tears fall once I was safely inside. As I drove toward the only hotel in Oakwood, a place I had never been able to afford growing up, I wondered if I had just irreparably damaged my relationship with my family, or if this painful honesty might eventually lead to something better. The Oakwood Inn was hardly the luxury accommodation I had grown accustomed to, but its presidential suite, the only one in the building, offered privacy and space I desperately needed. After checking in, I sat on the edge of the king-sized bed and called Jessica. I am so sorry, she began immediately. I completely misunderstood your situation. When you mentioned going home for your birthday, I assumed your family knew about your position. It is not your fault, I assured her. In fact, maybe it was time they found out. There is no Paris meeting, she confessed. I made that up when I realized my mistake. I thought it might help save face. Despite everything, I laughed. Well, your improvisation skills are impressive. But now my family thinks I regularly jet off to meet with foreign dignitaries. Do not you, though. Last month it was that education summit in Tokyo. That is different, I protested weakly, then sighed. Actually, I do not know what is real anymore. I have been living a double life for so long. After updating Jessica on the family drama and assuring her I would be back in the office Monday, I took a long shower and tried to sort through my feelings. The hurt was still there. A lifetime of feeling secondary did not disappear in one evening. But underneath it was something else. Relief, perhaps. The exhausting charade was over. I slept surprisingly well and woke to several text messages. My mother had written, "Please come home for breakfast. We need to talk." Sophia's message was shorter. "Sorry about last night." Kind of. My father, never comfortable with technology, had simply written, "Call me." Instead of responding to any of them, I ordered room service and spent the morning catching up on work emails. Around 11, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, my father stood there looking uncertain and older than I remembered. "May I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside, noticing how he surveyed the suite with widened eyes. "Nice place," he commented. "Though, I guess you are used to better." "It is perfectly fine," I said, gesturing for him to sit in one of the armchairs by the window. "How did you know where to find me?" "Small town," he reminded me with a slight smile. "Margie at the front desk is your mother's second cousin. But do not worry. I swore her to secrecy. Your mother does not know I am here." We sat in awkward silence for a moment before he spoke again. "Kay, I owe you an apology. Many apologies, actually." "Dad, you do not have to." He held up his hand. "Please let me say this. I have been thinking all night about what you said about how we have treated you and Sophia differently. And you are right. We have." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. "When you were born, you were this serious little baby. You rarely cried, you slept through the night early, you hit all your milestones ahead of schedule. You were so capable. Even as a toddler, you would play independently. Figure things out for yourself." He smiled at the memory. Then Sophia came along and she was the opposite. Colicky, demanding, always needing attention. We got into the habit of focusing more energy on her because she seemed to need it more. "You were always so self-sufficient." "Being self-sufficient was not always a choice," I said quietly. He nodded, his expression pained. "I know that now. We mistook your independence for not needing us, when really we trained you to expect less from us." He ran a hand through his thinning hair. "I was proud of you, Kay. Always. But I realize now, I rarely told you that. I just assumed you knew." "I needed to hear it sometimes," I admitted. "I needed to feel like my achievements mattered too." "They do matter," he said firmly. "What you have accomplished is incredible. I spent half the night looking up your company online. The work you are doing with those educational programs. It is amazing, Kay. Truly groundbreaking." The pride in his voice loosened something tight in my chest. "Thank you, Dad. No wonder you stopped sharing things with us," he continued. "We never made space for your success. We were so busy celebrating Sophia's small victories that we missed your enormous ones. We talked for over an hour, covering years of misunderstandings and missed connections. He told me how he had always related more easily to Sophia's outgoing personality, while my analytical mind reminded him of his own father, a brilliant but distant man he had struggled to please. I shared how I had interpreted their focus on Sophia as evidence that I was somehow less lovable, less worthy of attention. "That was never true," he insisted, his voice rough with emotion. "We just thought you were the one who had it all figured out. We worried more about Sophia because she seemed more fragile." As our conversation wound down, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Please come home. I made your favorite lemon cake." I showed my father the message and he smiled. "She has been baking since dawn. Stress baking, she calls it. The kitchen looks like a flower bomb exploded." "I should talk to her too," I acknowledged. He nodded. "And Sophia. She is struggling with all this in her own way." As we prepared to leave, my father hesitated by the door. "Kay, I want you to know something. I am not just proud of what you have achieved. I am proud of who you are. Your integrity. Your determination. The way you built something meaningful instead of just chasing money. Even if you had never founded that company, you would still be extraordinary. His words, so long awaited, brought tears to my eyes. Thanks, Dad. That means more than you know. My mother was waiting on the porch when we arrived. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands twisting her apron nervously. When she saw me, she rushed forward and embraced me with unusual fierceness. I am so sorry, she whispered against my hair. I've been a terrible mother. No, Mom, I protested, holding her tight. Not terrible, just human. Inside, over slices of perfect lemon cake, she had remembered it was my favorite. After all, my mother offered her own perspective. I always thought you were the strong one, she explained. The one who could handle anything. Sophia needed so much reassurance, so much support. You seemed so capable, so sure of yourself. I was faking it most of the time, I admitted. I just learned early that showing need or disappointment did not get me very far. My mother's face crumpled. Okay, I never wanted you to feel that way. Our conversation was interrupted by Sophia's arrival. She entered cautiously, her usual confidence dimmed. Hey, she said, hovering in the doorway. Can we talk? My parents discreetly retreated to the backyard, leaving us alone in the living room. Sophia sat across from me, uncharacteristically fidgeting with the edge of a throw pillow. So she began, you are basically a tech mogul. I smiled slightly. I would not go that far. According to Google, you should, she countered. I spent hours last night looking you up. Why did you never tell me any of this? I considered the question carefully, partly because no one ever asked, partly because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That it would not matter. That even knowing I had built something significant, you would all still see me as boring, responsible Kay. The afterthought. Sophia winced. That is not fair. Is not it? You called me the birthday girl yesterday, but did you actually remember it was my birthday before Mom mentioned canceling dinner? Her silence was answer enough. Look, I continued more gently, I am not blameless here. I withdrew. I kept secrets. I built a wall between my life there and my life here. But can you understand why? Sophia nodded slowly. I think so. And I am sorry about the birthday dinner. I should have insisted they keep the reservation. It is not about the dinner, I said. It is about the pattern. About always being the one expected to understand. To give way, to need less. I never saw it that way, she admitted. I just thought that was our dynamic. You were the serious, successful one. I was the free spirit who needed more help. Maybe we have both been playing roles assigned to us long ago, I suggested. Maybe we both need to see each other more clearly. Sophia reached for my hand. I would like that. And by the way, belated happy birthday, sis. For what it is worth, I always looked up to you, even when I was getting all the attention. That evening, I suggested we all go out to dinner. Not to Romano's, but to Emilio's, the finest restaurant in the neighboring town. As we enjoyed a meal that cost more than my parents typically spent on a week's groceries, we talked more openly than we had in years. My mother asked detailed questions about Novatech. My father wanted to understand the technological innovations behind our educational platform. Even Sophia showed genuine interest in my work life. We should plan a trip to San Francisco, my mother suggested. See your office, your home. Really understand your life there. I would like that, I said, meaning it. And speaking of trips, 3 weeks after that revelatory birthday weekend, I stood in the private terminal at San Francisco International Airport, watching my family's wide-eyed reactions. My father examined the sleek private jet with an engineer's appreciation for its design. My mother nervously clutched her new luggage. A set I had sent them all in preparation for this trip. Sophia bounced on her toes with barely contained excitement. I still cannot believe you did this, she said, for perhaps the 10th time that morning. You really did not have to. Consider it making up for lost time, I replied, smiling at her enthusiasm. Instead of funding just Sophia's European adventure, I had arranged for our entire family to spend 2 weeks together. 1 week at a luxury villa in Tuscany, and another exploring Paris with accommodations at the very Le Meurice Hotel. Jessica had mentioned in her fateful call. It was extravagant, yes, but after years of distance, I wanted quality time together. In a setting where old patterns could not easily reassert themselves. The past few weeks had brought significant changes in our family dynamic. My parents had visited my San Francisco condo, toured the Novatech offices, and met my team. Seeing me in my professional environment, confident, respected, clearly in command, had shifted something fundamental in how they perceived me. No longer was I just reliable Kay who would understand if her needs came last. I was Kay Reynolds, CEO and innovator, a woman who had built something meaningful through vision and determination. More importantly, though, I was their daughter. Not perfect, not invulnerable, but worthy of the same care and consideration they had always given Sophia. Our conversations had become more balanced, with my parents making visible efforts to ask about my life and actually listen to the answers. Sophia and I were developing a more authentic adult relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than our childhood roles. On our last night in Tuscany, sitting on the villa terrace overlooking rolling vineyards bathed in sunset light, my father raised his wine glass in a toast. To Kay, he said, his voice warm with pride and tinged with regret for lost years. Not just for this incredible trip, but for having the courage to break our family patterns. For showing us who you really are, even when we were slow to see. My mother wiped away a tear, and for forgiving us for our blindness. Sophia added her own glass to the toast, to second chances and new beginnings. As our glasses clinked in the golden light, I felt a sense of peace I had not known in decades. The hurt had not completely disappeared. Deep patterns rarely heal without leaving scars. But something new was growing in its place. Understanding. Forgiveness. A more honest connection. The day after returning from Europe, I surprised my family again. This time with news that Novatech would be opening a development office just 30 minutes from Oakwood. We are expanding anyway, I explained. And I have realized I want to be closer to home. More surprising still was Sophia's request for an internship with our marketing team. I still love yoga, she clarified. But maybe it is time I challenge myself with something new. Something where I actually have to earn my place. My parents, too, were evolving. My father volunteered to mentor young engineers at Novatech one day a week. My mother started a reading program at local schools using our educational software. Small steps but meaningful ones. As for me, I was learning that true success could not be measured in contracts signed or revenues generated. The wealth that mattered most was not in my bank account, but in these renewed connections, in being fully seen and accepted by the people who had known me longest. The path to healing was neither straight nor simple. Old habits sometimes resurfaced. Conversations occasionally grew tense when sensitive topics arose. But we were trying, all of us, to build something better than what we had before. On my 33rd birthday, we celebrated at Romano's, the original restaurant from the year before. No canceled reservations, no overshadowing priorities. Just family honestly connecting. I have been thinking, my mother said as dessert was served, about something you said that night when everything changed. About how we appreciated your absence more than your presence. I winced slightly at the memory of my harsh words. You were right, she continued. We took your strength for granted. We assumed you needed less from us because you asked for less. That was our failure, not yours. And my failure was pulling away instead of speaking up, I acknowledged. We all played our parts in this. My father reached for my hand. The important thing is that we are writing a new story now. Together. Looking around at their faces, older but newly familiar to me, I realized that the greatest gift of the past year had not been the recognition of my success or even their apologies for past neglect. It was this, the chance to know and be known, to love and be loved, not for what we accomplished or provided, but simply for who we were. The journey of healing is rarely complete, and our family still had work to do. But sitting there in that restaurant that had once symbolized rejection, I felt a profound sense of homecoming. Not to a physical place, but to the truth of belonging. What had begun with a canceled birthday and an unexpected phone call had become something I never expected: a second chance at family. Not perfect, not without its complications, but real and worth fighting for. Have you ever had to reveal a part of yourself that your family never knew? How did they react? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family relationships, personal growth, and finding your true worth. Remember, sometimes the most painful confrontations lead to the most beautiful reconciliations. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to be fully seen in your own life.